Welcome to PodCapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. And this week, we're talking about the Ghost City Comics competition. Ho ho ho! Bye! Cue the music! Hello there, Capers, and as I said, welcome to PodCapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. My name's Scott James Meridew, and this is the show where we talk about various geek and nerd-related topics, and are joined each week by a very special different guest. Now, as I said, we are talking about Ghost City Comics competition. This is I think it's a relatively new, going on for a while, comics competition designed to find the best and the brightest of the comics industry and promote people that deserve to be promoted. This is going to be the first in a series that we're going to do over here at PodCapers. There's many more people that we want to talk to because there's multiple winners of different categories. And the winner of the best short story, the writer of the comic that won the best short story in the Ghost City Comics competition is Deniz Campbell!
Hey, hey!
How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing very well. It's been a relatively nice day here in Edinburgh. What about you? Where are you calling from?
I'm in Brooklyn, New York, and it's been great, actually. Gorgeous. I think we're just coming out of winter.
The Windy City, just out of winter.
Yes, exactly. The Windy City, I believe, is Chicago.
I know. I like to tease people from other cities with that.
Excellent.
It's my little joke. I'm sorry.
It is pretty windy there. You know, people in Chicago say that it's not actually windy. It's actually quite windy. That's a fun fact, a Chicagoan fact. That's just an extra for the podcast.
Breaking news: Chicago, yeah. Windy.
Windy. It is. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad it's okay over there. Here in Edinburgh, we're just getting over the Beast from the East Junior. Oh God!
Is that like a friend that came to visit, or
no? The Beast from the East was no friend to us. The Beast from the East was a massive fucking snowstorm that ground the whole country to a halt.
I had heard that. Yes.
And we got a little mini version of it a couple of days ago. It's early April when we're recording this, and so we got snow in April. Snow in April. What the fuck?
Yeah, we got that too. It's not that abnormal for me. I'm from Michigan. It's the snowy north. I come from the snowy north, so.
Yeah, but we can't deal with bad weather over here, though. Even though we constantly get bad weather, you'd think that would prepare us, but no.
Well, eventually you learn. I think.
You say that you're talking with like the United Kingdom, who voted for Brexit.
Yes.
You think we'd learn by now, but no.
Yeah.
Well,
we elected Trump, didn't we? So it's not.
No, you didn't. The Electoral College did.
Well, yes, a technicality, but nevertheless, a shameful one.
True, but we're not here to talk about depressing stuff.
No, my fault.
We're here to talk about fun stuff. So before we go into stuff you've done, let's talk about you. Describe who you are, where you come from, what do you do? My name's Deniz Camp. I'm a comics writer. I was born in the Philippines, but raised mostly in the States. I currently live in Brooklyn, New York with my girlfriend and our 14 chickens that we are raising. And I write comics. That's such a Brooklyn thing, isn't it?
It's not it's a hipster thing that my girlfriend was doing when I met her, and I scoffed. And now I've inherited the responsibility of taking care of the chickens. And they are fun. Like, it is fun to have, and we get a lot of eggs.
All the omelets you can eat.
Yeah, it really is. We get like 14 a day. Shout out to anyone who is in Brooklyn who wants free eggs. We have too many.
Like 14 a day, dear Lord.
Yeah.
Oh my God, those poor chickens.
I know. It's rough for them. Honestly, it must be unpleasant. I would not want that.
No, I wouldn't want that. Jeez. But so, what about comics and writing? How did you get into that?
Right. So I was originally in a completely different field. I was in the sciences and med school, and I finished all of that and decided I did not enjoy it. So I'm
several $1,000s in debt. Let's do something else.
Yeah, let's try something new. And years, not just dollars, but many years in debt in a certain way. But yeah, I decided to try something else. It wasn't for me. And so I started writing after a few months of aimlessness, I started writing. And I won the 2015 Miller World Talent Competition. And so Image published my short story for Starlight. Like, it was a part of the Starlight universe that Mark Miller and Goran Parlov created.
Oh, wow.
And then after that, I created a series with, it was accepted at least, Maxwell's Demons, my current ongoing series from Vault Comics. And then after that, I won Ghost City Comics competition for a short story that I wrote and co-created with my good friend Romain Brun.
Yeah, and also Julian Brun as well.
And Julian Brun as well, his amazing brother and colorist.
Yes, I always find it fascinating when family members get together to work on a project, like Mike and Laura Allred. Always kind of fascinating when they collaborate and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're really in sync, and I know Julian kind of is just doing it for fun for the most part. Romain is really, he wants it as a career, but for Julian, it's really just a bit of fun. But he's incredible. I think he's an amazing talent. I hope to rope him into comics more full time.
Well, having read Time is of the Essence, I'm inclined to agree with you. This is a pretty phenomenal comic.
Well, thank you. It's mostly, I mean, it's certainly gorgeous. I certainly feel that they both together, they have an incredible synergy, and they have a lot in common, I think, with Sean Gordon Murphy, who whose work is, very influential and I really like.
Okay, so before we start talking about Time is of the Essence, we need to talk about how you actually came across the Ghost City Comics competition.
Yeah, I think I saw them post something on Reddit, which Reddit comic collabs, and I occasionally surf and see what's going on there, and I happened to come across a post about it one day, and I thought, well, we had Romain and Julian and I had all created this before the Ghost City Comics competition had opened or entered. We'd just done it for ourselves, honestly, just to, I wanted to write a script that I thought would be, decently fun to read, and Romain was just practicing as well, so we all kind of just came together and pitched in, and it was a lot of fun to do on its own. And then we just had it, and I guess we kind of just held on to it as a portfolio piece or what have you. And then Ghost City came up, and I thought that would be a fun one to enter. I was really proud of what we had done, and again I thought that the brothers did an amazing job. So I'm really glad they got recognized.
Absolutely, well, deserve to be recognized. The Brothers Brun.
Yes,
Brun.
Exactly. The Brothers Brun.
Brun. Do you not even know now?
Now you confused me, to be honest with you.
I'm sorry.
I'm not. No. That's good. It's a little bit of insecurity is good. It's necessary.
Well, they're not here, so.
Yeah. No, yes, that's true. That is true. I can say whatever. I can pronounce it any way that I want now. Again, godlike power. It's amazing.
Absolutely. We would like to have them on, but they weren't available, were they?
No. The time zones kind of got us messed up, I think.
Yeah. They're busy people. Absolutely.
Busy.
Absolutely, and I like the fact that you've just sort of had this thing in your back pocket almost, because as a writer myself, as a script writer, often that's the way you got all sorts of ideas in the backlog, all sorts of scripts in the backlog, and it's like, ooh, this would be perfect for this.
Yeah,
and also
absolutely.
that you just sort of stumbled across it, because that's basically how I ended up working for A Place to Hang Your Cape. I stumbled across an ad David Malofsky posted for someone looking for people to write about movies and superheroes, and I was like, I could do that.
It was fate or chance. They're basically the same.
Basically, yeah. No fate but what we make. Dun dun dun.
There you go.
Dun.
There you go. That was sort of the point of Time is of the Essence. So
absolutely, I think it's a perfect segue. Talking about Time is of the Essence. Now, describe in your own words what Time is of the Essence is all about. I guess I look at it as a time travel story and also a love story, an unconventional love story, and a story about finding meaning in other people. And so, especially one of the reasons that I wanted to leave medicine was that it's such an all-consuming career, and it's very difficult for you to have relationships with people outside of your career. Outside of the work that you do, and I found that I was finding that increasingly unsatisfying, and so I kind of put some of that into the work. And the main character, Carlin can't. He's really focused on work, and something kind of shocks him out of it. Something pretty dramatic. Getting him out of that bubble he's in.
Yes, exactly. The bubble of his own creation as well, right? Because we create. I mean, it's our own decisions that get us there, but sometimes we need something to shock us out of it, and that's something that happened to me and kind of got me away from medicine. And I thought, well, there's really nothing more shocking than seeing your own dead body in front of you. So that was kind of the thing that pushed Carlin out of his. So.
Because it starts off almost as a sort of very conventional sci-fi time travel tale. There's a guy, a scientist, he's working on this time doohickey thing, trying to travel through time, and whoop, his body comes back from the future, and it's like, oh no, someone's going to kill you, maybe. I'm using specifically vague words. Dead.
Yeah.
Oh no. And it's this story has been done time and time again. You know, can we break
No pun
this?
intended.
No, no pun, definitely no pun intended. And can we break sort of the grandfather paradox? Can we not? And it's whenever I see these stories, the story can be done very well. There's usually two endings. Either they do find a way out of it and do cause a paradox or something wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, reset everything, or things happen exactly as they should do, and it's like, okay, we saw this coming. Oh no, you can't escape your fate. This was a perfect subversion of all of my expectations. Because if you don't mind, I think we should probably spoil it. It's been.
I think it's a 10-page story. I think we can spoil it. Yeah.
What happens?
So in the end, it turns out that the main character was not murdered by this person that he was looking for, but rather was brought to life by this person that he was looking for. So he has a picture of a woman, and it appears that she might have had something to do with his death. So he goes to investigate who this person might be, and maybe to kill her before she can kill him. And then over time, he begins to fall in love with her, and in their love, he finds the solution to the problem that he was looking for the whole time, which is, how to time travel. But it no longer means anything to him. Looking at the future is much more interested, and living the future is much more interesting than jumping ahead or going back. And then so after a year or two together, he is diagnosed with a very horrible and incurable neurodegenerative disease called Creutzfeldt-Jakob's disease, and which is something that somebody was diagnosed with in the hospital while I was working there, and it was just like a really
I did
terrible...
wonder, is this a legitimate disease? Because it does sound a bit sort of like, what can we come up with a name for a disease that sounds kind of cool and realistic?
Yeah, it also sounds. I mean, though I had to pick something that couldn't be solved by going back in time. Like if you have cancer, you can go back. He can use that to go back in time and save himself.
Knock that cigarette out of your hand. Don't do it.
Exactly. Or just get tested earlier, and get it when it's small. But something like this there's really no escaping it. And there's nothing you can do to stop Creutzfeldt-Jakob's disease. We don't have anything for it. It's very rare, and by the time you're diagnosed, anyway, for most people, it's too late. Like they've most of they've become too demented. So anyway, that's a downer. But so the whole point was for him going back in time and telling himself to look for this woman was about bringing himself to life before he died, so that he could have at least a year or two of bliss or something close to it. So and that was it was just a kind of a sweet love story about how important people are in our lives, at least for me, how much the relationships in our lives make it or give it meaning, and so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a perfect way to end the story, a perfect way to show how this character grows and develops. And it was just lovely, because I was wondering, how is this going to end? How is this going to end? What are they going to do? And I was not disappointed. Oh,
great! Thanks so much. I'm happy. Yeah, I mean, it's a loop story, and time travel stories have a bunch of those. But for me, it was really about the emotions and what it meant. It was kind of a story, or the whole idea was that the story itself was a machine designed to bring the character to life, and so.
So you have to remember is that I'm English and therefore dead inside. So your emotions mean nothing to me.
Totally, absolutely. I understand. It's hard for me to get them up as well.
No, it is a beautiful comic. The artwork and the colors. And
the colors, it's so amazing. I think the things that they were able to do to make the color come to life are astonishing. Honestly, Julian is a master.
Yeah, because when they're outside and it's sunny, it looks
yes.
really gorgeous and sunny.
Yeah, I want to live in that panel in particular. Yeah, at the
Sun
park.
dappled is the word I like to use.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's painted in pinks and oranges. Yeah, they did an amazing job.
And even when it's dark and it's nighttime, there's still that sort of purplish, glowy haze about it. That is just so nice to look at.
Yeah, it's never boring. Even though this is not a story with a lot of action either, and so and that was sort of my mistake, because I think that Romain is amazing at drawing action, and he's great at scale. He's got some X-Men sample pages flying around that are really, really good and incredibly dynamic. And so, but he was still able, together they were able to make even the simplest and sort of mundane panels really beautiful to look at, and I think that was something that he hadn't really done before and was pushing himself to do. And I think they both killed it. Yeah.
That's the scene I particularly love is the scene where he's diagnosed with this disease. And sort of the edges of his vision are all blurry, and it's like how you look when your adrenaline is going, when you got bad news, and that feeling you get.
Yeah, they were able to do that so well, and everything kind of turns on its side a little bit. It was great. I think I had something very vague about how I wanted that to look, and they did something so much better, obviously.
So what was the collaborative process? What was the, okay, can you do this? Can you do that? Oh, this looks good. Putting it all together. What was that process like?
It was pretty traditional, I think. I had a full script that gave each panel and sometimes some of the page designs. And then I had some suggestions for some things that we didn't end up doing. There was a lot of things that I said, well, maybe we should try this. And he was like, that won't look good. And there were some panels that I called that were impossible, and he split up into more. But for the most part, it was a pretty traditional. I had a full script, and he more or less stayed close to that. And then I had really no notes for Julian, because I had my knowledge of how to color was, especially at that time, very low. And they really worked on that together. I'm gonna trust you know
what you're doing. What you're doing.
And same with the lettering. They learned to letter really for this. They had a specific vision for how they wanted it, and so they really both did the letters for it, and they learned it while they were doing it.
I'm not an expert on lettering, but looking at it, you couldn't tell. I wouldn't know that this is something that someone learned on some. That's the thing. There's a lot of words in it, and often that can be to the detriment of a comic, especially the one that's meant to be very visual. Because it clutters it up or distracts something. That's not the case here. It all comes together. You don't, even though there is a lot of words and a lot of word panels and word balloons and stuff like that, it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, that goes really into how also Romain was drawing the story, where he was thinking about the placements even as he was doing layouts. So you really have to bake that into the design to make sure that you're not covering up with the lettering anything super important, and that the read order isn't broken. And again, they were thinking about it throughout, and they had very specific thoughts on where it would go. That's why they wanted to do the lettering. I offered to hire someone, and they chose to do it themselves.
Oh, so fuck that noise. We're gonna do it properly.
Yeah, exactly. They couldn't let go. They're perfectionists. They really are. Their attention to detail is amazing. The stuff that they're doing now, they're doing some pages with another writer that I've seen, and they just get better and better every time.
Absolutely. And it's very clear why you won the category you won.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know what the other competition was like. I'm sure it was very very tense, but this is, it's very absorbing. It's one of those things where I just love a comic where you start reading it and then your whole world is the comic.
That's amazing. Yeah, it was a great. If I was going to win any of them, I think that this would have been the best one, because I really felt like the team came together on this one to make something that was from all of us. So it wasn't, it wasn't a writer driven necessarily, or artist driven, or color driven, or anything specific. It was kind of, we came together and made something better than any of us would have alone. So yeah, I was over the moon, honestly.
Well, yeah, absolutely should be. And so now that you're coming off of this and everything, do you think you'll ever go for Ghost City Comics competition again?
I talked to the guys, and I think they said that they would have me as a judge for the next one. Yeah, I think after winning one, I think you're not necessarily supposed to to keep trying to win it. It would feel
Show
it would
off.
feel yeah it would
Don't
feel
be
kind
Meryl Streep
yeah.
winning
I think
all
it would,
the awards.
I mean, if you did win, I think that people would be like, well, that's good for you. I like give other people a chance, and
This is meant to promote people that haven't got a lot of recognition before, and having a festival. I mean, the ethos of Ghost City Comics Competition is that there should be like a film festival or a festival for comics, and this is a great way of expressing that, which I completely agree with. I can't believe there isn't one.
Yeah, I mean the current feeder system into comics is difficult. There's an element of, I mean, in all of these there are, but Top Cow Talent Hunt and Miller World Talent Hunt, they allow for some people to get elevated, but those are they're not that many in comics, and so it's hard to get new blood, and you end up with a lot of people writing maybe too many books or writing for too many books over a long period of time. So I think it's important to get some new blood in there, and it's great to see somebody giving people a shot, burgeoning creators.
We all need help sometimes. We all need shots. We all need someone to open the door for us. At least show us where the door is.
Exactly. Visibility is hard to get and really important. So
talking of your other work, you've done a lot of other stuff. What I want to talk about is Maxwell's Demons. Now, you sent me links to issue 1 and issue 2 of Maxwell Demons. The link to issue 1 didn't work for me for some reason.
Oh, no.
So I only got to read issue 2, and I have questions.
Oh, yes. That is somewhat confusing, and also, but be sure that reading issue 1 wouldn't have necessarily clarified anything anyway. A lot of people were jarred from issue 1
I need answers.
Yes, it's confusing. It's definitely, each issue is meant to be to exist as its own story, in addition to the overall mega story. So, it's possible. Like, hopefully, it was possible to get something enjoyable out of issue 2, but it would be richer if you had read issue 1.
I really enjoyed issue 2. I just wish I had context for who these characters are. You've got a sword, but it's a black hole? I need more information.
Well, no, there is no... So, for that character was introduced in issue 2. So, you have as much information as there is about that particular character.
Oh, you tease!
It's only the old man in issue 2 that really is at all featured in issue 1. So.
Okay. So I'm guessing this the character from the main character from issue 2, the one who looks a bit like Captain Marvel, isn't Maxwell.
No, that's Yael. She's an alien, and she'll come back eventually. But the series is actually focuses on Maxwell Mass, who is a genius. And the question isn't so much is he going to be important. It's going to be what kind of importance is he going to have. So his generation's Einstein and much more. And when we first see him in issue 1, he's actually just a boy, just around 9 years old, and he's turned his closet door into a portal that takes him to other universes, various planets and other universes. And while he's doing that to escape from his abusive father and kind of shitty home life. And so when he's exploring these alternate worlds, he encounters some creatures, some aliens, and they kind of take him under his wing, and they take him on even further adventures, greater adventures. And it's really, the first issue is really about growing up and putting away childish things. And then issue 2 is kind of takes place thousands of years after issue 1, and we kind of see where Max is in this future. And then the rest of the series ping pongs between those two timelines. So he's a little bit older.
His beginning and his near end, I guess.
Yeah, and his near end, exactly. And we'll take you in a non-chronological fashion. We'll take you to various points in his life, and each issue will give you kind of a different perspective on who he is. And he kind of, it seems like he's changing, but there's one consistent story, and issue 5 kind of turns the whole series on its head. And one big reveal happens that puts the whole series into a new context. So
this sounds utterly fascinating. Do you know what this sounds like? This sounds like A Wrinkle in Time, but not shit.
Yeah, there's some of that. I mean, yes, I wanted to play with. We play with time a lot. Issue 3, we go really far, and we play with the ways that you can represent time in comics, especially. Well, anyway, there's a lot of formal things that you can do in comics that people like Tom King and before him Alan Moore, Grant Morrison, Neil Gaiman played with a lot, and we do a lot of that.
Time is an illusion.
Yes, exactly. As we said in the opening line to issue 3 is time is a lie. Here's the truth, and so. Issue 3 tells you the truth about time. It tells you the structure of the universe. It tells you a lot. Issue 3, we cover a lot of ground. Issue 4, we cover a lot of ground too. Issue 5, even more ground.
See,
all the ground.
This is classic, perfect sci-fi because the whole whiz-bang, shooty, black hole sword, spaceship things are just a vehicle for interesting concepts and philosophies.
Yes, that's exactly what we're hoping for. We're first of all, I want to talk about comics or by using the form of comics, right? So it's very difficult. Comics is very difficult to. There's not that much space. The budget in comics is space, not money. So you can do almost anything in comics, but you can't take that long doing it just because you only have so many pages to go. And
there's so much space on the page.
And only so much space on the page. So in something like TV, you can get away with a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of room for things to happen. Less so in comics. And so sometimes it can feel kind of false when you see a character change suddenly after a certain experience, because that's not how change happens to me. My changes to me as a person happen so slowly and incrementally over time that you would never be able to say, well, it's all happening right here. There's before and after this event. No, it's
a tree
there's a
does not spring up overnight.
Exactly. And so I wanted to take Max at various points in his life and show you how this is all one character, but he's changed in the interim, and then your mind hopefully fills in some of those gaps, because that seems a much more true way of showing character development than this is the important life, and he went through this one and went from having this horrible character flaw to no longer having this horrible character flaw, and that was the arc. That just seems very constructed to me and very simple in a way that this other method, this non-chronological method, allows me to get around and hopefully say, well, yes, a lot of things happened in this time period, and that's why this character is like that, and that's why these changes have happened, and let's explore what that means, and what kind of a person he is. So.
Okay, but there's one question we have to answer. What is the origin story of Freddy the Mouse?
He actually gets an origin in issue 3, you get a little bit more of an origin, and then if we get to the end of the series, by that I mean if we get to 20 or 30 issues, I do have a very specific origin for him, yes, and also for Max's various problems. So.
Absolutely, because any comic there's a character called Freddy the Mouse, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm sold. You got me.
He's the Superman. He's named after Nietzsche. So.
Oh God. Friedrich.
Yeah.
Friedrich, aka Freddy.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it. Oh, blimey. Oh, see, there's so many little things that some people. That's what I love about stuff like this. There's little things that some people will get and some people won't. Some people, idiots like me, will just love the bush bang crikey stuff. Other people like the intrigue.
It might have been more obvious if you had read the first issue. A lot of the characters were named after some of my favorite philosophers in the first issue. So
what are some of your favorite philosophers?
That's more boring than I'm willing to get into for this podcast, I feel.
I'm sorry, what are you saying? Are you saying that and my capers are not intellectuals?
I'm saying that a list of your favorite philosophers is boring for almost any venue. I would never lead with that. Maybe to my girlfriend, because we've been together for long enough that she can't leave me at this point. She's got too much invested. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, God. Okay, fair enough. What I do want to talk about, though, is some of your other stuff. I've been looking on your website, and it says that you're a writer of comics, video games, film, and television. Let's keep going and talk about a lot of your other comic books. War Intelligence.
That was the first thing that I ever wrote that got made into a comic. So it was just, again, that was something that I talked about with a friend, Dario, he just does illustrations rather than sequential, but we had talked about doing just a quick sci-fi story. It was meant to be 8 pages. I wrote it as 8 pages. He drew it, and it took years because we were both doing a lot of other things. And he turned it into 16 pages and he just stretched it out, but then also just added a bunch of pages to the beginning, which was really fun because he was like, this is what I felt. This is just what I felt needed to be here. And it was kind of an addendum or an intro to the first story. And so I had my script that was 8 pages. He expanded that, added his own, and then I scripted over those pages that he added. And so it was this incredibly weird, great collaboration where we ended up with something that was
reverse engineered a comic.
Yeah, I mean, it was very much a quilt style thing where we were both adding stuff and commenting on each other's stuff with our own work. So he was creating pages and I was commenting on them with the words that I put over them. And I was writing the script and he was commenting on it by, he was like, no, we need to stretch. He understood much better than I did at the time, especially what
you needed in order to tell the story. Yeah.
And yes, and how best to do that. I still am very obsessed with density. I like putting a lot into my comics, but to know, no, these sequences, these panels need more space to work in the way that you want them to. That was a really crucial insight. So at the beginning, a lot of my stuff had to be expanded by every artist that I worked with, just because I kept trying to squeeze too much in and not let the moments hit with the impact that they needed to. So yeah, so that was just it was just something that we tried, and we printed out some physical copies and just handed them out. I gave a few to a couple editors and to Neil Gaiman as well.
Oh wow!
And yeah,
hi Neil Gaiman. I guess I know you have a comic.
Yeah, I accosted him at a book signing and gave it to him. And he was so nice about it. Anyway, so that was one of the first things I did. And
the first things you did, and you handed it to a genius.
I know, it was intimidating, and I was too stupid to know that it wasn't very good, and that I shouldn't give that to him. So, but it was fun. It was fun.
Just because it may not be as good as some of your later work doesn't mean you can't learn something from it. Just come in, you can't take something from the experience. We've all got to start somewhere. We've all got to do things that maybe aren't our best work, but that's something. It's like you can't build a wall with one brick. You need multiple bricks.
I think you really do need to see your script turned into a comic just to know how badly you fucked it up. Yeah. Honestly, I
don't know. That never stops Frank Miller.
Yeah, no, he's great. He knows what he's doing. Does
he?
Yeah.
That's more scary than if he doesn't know.
Oh, he knows.
Oh God.
He knows. His evolution as an artist has been crazy to me. It's been a joy to watch. He's really.
Like watching someone slowly slip into madness.
No. Well, yes, but a specific kind of madness, a madness of his own design, which I think is basically all art. It's a madness of your own design. But either way, so it was a lot of fun to do. I had a lot of fun doing it. And as you say, to make your own work is important, just to see what it looks like and to know, okay, well, how far, even to make a bad film or to make a bad TV show or to make a bad comic takes a lot of work. So it's that much more difficult to make a good one. And seeing the final product really hammers home how much work one has to put in to make something that's good.
But also you had someone with you to help you through it. And you collaborated with Dario afterwards, hadn't you?
No, we did some small things together. We planned a few projects, but we just both went into different directions. And he started doing illustrations for L'Espresso magazine, and so he does those now. And I think we're both just really happy. I won the Middle World Talent thing, and that kind of jump started the more mainstream comic side of my career, which was awesome.
Absolutely, and there's you've done so many things. Your portfolio is quite expensive. Murder One. This looks. Am I right in thinking this is a bit less sci-fi than the others?
Yeah, it's a horror. I guess you could describe it as biblical horror.
There is a man sunbathing, surrounded by body parts arranged in the shape of a pentagram.
Yeah, there's some biblical horror. Of course. What else would you expect from biblical horror?
Yeah.
It's sort of like if Cain, as in Cain and Abel, had lived, he was still alive, and he was a Hannibal Lecter style serial killer in modern day, and so the this is just a short that kind of he's just a serial killer that gets brought in, and then he tells a detective his life story, and kind of it's a my attempt at horror, at least.
I'm looking at his facial expressions and all the panels. He's got this whole like deranged Charles Manson look about him.
Yeah, exactly, that's perfect. And I thought he's kind of like the patron saint of serial killers,
he's the first murderer.
Right. Yes. And it's kind of he kind of sees himself as a philosophical explorer or scientist. You know, the idea that from this first murder, so many branches of philosophy were born. Right. I mean, what does it mean to kill? What does it mean to kill somebody? And not just philosophy, but then criminology, forensics, all these other things from the power of this new thing in the world. That was sort of my entry into it. If Cain is
the first murderer, does that make God the first police officer?
Or who is? Yeah, exactly, exactly. Or judge at the very least.
Questions for your mind brain.
Exactly. So that's kind of all baked into that one, and that was a lot of fun to do. And the artist is amazing on that, and he's doing work now for Scout Comics. So he's got his own series as well.
Oh, brilliant! Well, that's Federico De Luca. Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, and so I was looking through your stuff, trying to find stuff that's a bit the different things you've done. So Wanders, this is a pulpy sort of comic.
Yeah, that one actually never came out. I haven't updated my website in a while, but that was a kind of a post-pulp comic. So I was really inspired by like the work of Warren Ellis and Planetary, and the work of Alan Moore and Tom Strong, and so it was originally going to be kind of a deconstruction of a lot of those same tropes, but with a lot of energy. I thought I wanted to make a character who was multiracial and it was kind of about what's the best the best future for us. You know, what's the way forward? Is it purely science? Is it mostly mysticism? You know, in the name of traditionalism? And so it was kind of about what I wanted for the future, told through these pulpy stories where the future was really positive. You know, it was a very optimistic view of the future, and now it's kind of
1940s, 1950s for America especially.
Yeah, now everything's kind of post-apocalyptic.
Oh god, yeah, oh god.
I mean, we're living in it, but yes.
Yeah, we're watching the world slowly crumble around us into a geopolitical nightmare.
Yeah, yes. All we can do is read our comics. That's the only thing that'll save us.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's two other things I want to talk about. First one is Love is Chemical. Purely because, I mean, the artwork on this is sort of it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's kind of got like I've worked with him since on a horror story as well. He's kind of got like a Brendan McCarthy thing to his work, or at least that's what he was channeling for that short. And that was again a kind of a love story, a short little love story that was inspired by 60s and 70s psychedelia, and which he's very into, and I'm also very into, and some personal experiences I had when I was in my misspent youth, and it was.
You did a bit of the wacky backy, did you?
Just a titch, here and there. So yeah, that was a lot of fun to do.
We're all very positive on this show. Don't worry.
Good. Well, yeah, I'm not expecting anyone, the cops, to come to my house, so I think I'm all right.
Oh my god, a guy made a vague reference to cannabis on a podcast. We must get him, hunt him down, go. Well, there was agents in every outhouse, henhouse, and doghouse in the state.
There you go. I would have to call fake news. It's the only way. It's the only way to escape anything in this country now.
Oh god. Moving on, let's talk about something uplifting, something from our childhood, or reminiscent of our childhood. Billy and Tawny.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun to do too. That was there were a couple of comics creators, Nate Cosby and Doc Shaner, who's quite big now. They used to do these short one-page Captain Marvel comics, Shazam comics, if you will, just before they were professionals, before anyone was paying them, just for fun, just to do it because they loved the characters. And I thought, wow, that's really fun. Like I liked the characters. I didn't love the characters, but I thought it would be a fun thing to do, to try to craft one-page comics, because the best way to learn is to do shorter comics. If you can boil your comics down to a page or 8 pages or 10 pages, then you really understand the core of your story. And so I wanted to do that for just one page comics myself. I thought, well, Captain Marvel is pretty cool. Isn't it weird that Captain Marvel's best friend is a talking tiger and that he's a little kid? That's pretty much exactly like Calvin and Hobbes. Let me do a Calvin and Hobbes style series of shorts with Billy and Tawny.
I'm surprised no one came up with this before.
Yeah, that's one of those things where it's so obvious that you're kind of shocked that people don't do it, because I've seen a lot of pastiches of Calvin and Hobbes, and I guess maybe Shazam isn't big enough for people to recognize. Anyway,
well,
it was a lot of fun to do
there's
that.
a movie coming out that
Yes.
looks a little bit shit.
Well, you just never know. I really love, I forget his name, but I love the guy who played Chucky. I find him to be
Zachary. No, it's not Zachary Quinto.
It's Zachary Levi.
Zachary Levi. Yeah, I always forget his name as well, but I do like him. He's in so many things, and he's great.
He's just likable.
Yeah.
He's just super likable.
He's very likable. He doesn't look good in that costume.
Well, I didn't see the pictures. That I've seen only people complaining about the pictures. I've never actually seen the pictures.
It's not really fair because they're taken from a distance. They're a tiny bit blurry, and Zachary Levi in the photos doesn't look particularly happy, which can happen. He's on a film set, it's long hours, it's a little bit rainy or something. He's allowed to look just a little bit put out. Maybe it was an off day, you don't know. So you are right, we shouldn't judge beforehand. But then again, it's a DC movie, so come on, let's place our bets on it being shit.
Yes, I don't have a horse in the race, but I do hope that it's good, just because, nice people. Seems like a nice group of people. I think, is The Rock still in it?
I don't know. I know there was people said the
Black Adam.
Black Adam. I don't know. That would be kind of cool. That would kind of break his streak, because he's made quite a few good movies recently.
But you're just assuming it's a foregone conclusion for you now. I see.
Well, okay. Let me put it this way. Once I believed that DC would make a good movie. That movie was Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
I will never trust them again. I went into Wonder Woman, which I love, thinking it was going to be shit. I was pleasantly surprised, but I'm not going to default to that again. I won't be taken for a fool.
Yeah, no, it's true. You're doing the smart thing.
Yeah.
It's good to have lowered expectations.
Yeah.
But
one thing
so millennial.
yeah. But one thing I do love, though, is Calvin and Hobbes. I didn't read a lot of it when I was a kid. But in my school library, we had just like a Calvin and Hobbes book, and I just used to read that all the time, because it had this really dry, but also funny, but also philosophical, laugh out loud humor that I just really gravitated towards.
Totally. Same. It was one of the deeper comic strips, and it was also, I think, very kind, which I really respond to.
Yeah, I will never forget the ending, the final strip that they did with that, where it's just like Calvin and Hobbes out in the snow. Yeah, it's a magical day, Hobbes, old buddy. Let's go exploring. Yeah.
And it just fades to white, which is perfect, because it's inspiring you. It's telling you to do your own thing, to use your own imagination. That's a perfect ending. And I saw that somebody did a sad updated version, which was Coda, which was I think it was Calvin and Hobbes are talking, but Calvin has to do his homework, and he's taking Adderall to stop him from, or to help him focus, because he's notoriously bad at focusing. And then Hobbes turns into just a little stuffed animal, no longer alive.
No.
That was horrible. I mean, not to say that it was a powerful thing, but it was too much. It was too much.
The feelings.
It was too much.
Because with Calvin, he was such an exuberant character that you couldn't help but love him. Like, there's one strip I really love, which is like he's hammering nails into like a coffee table. His mum rushes over saying, "What are you doing?" And he looks at her, looks at the table, looks back at her. Is that a trick question or what?
Yeah. It's incredibly droll, yeah.
It's genius, is what it is. And I like that you can find, I'm just looking at your thing, it's got very much that similar sort of feel. I just love that it's a giant fucking tiger in a suit and glasses.
But that is the character himself. That has nothing to do with us. And so it's just so perfect. Why is this character not doing more in the DC universe? You have to see him more.
Yeah, cause, I mean, I'm not that familiar with Captain Marvel or Shazam or whatever you want to call it. But I've seen a bits here and there. Like I've seen people talk about the new 52 version of Captain Marvel, and I've seen him in like a couple of cartoons and stuff. And Mr. Tawny keeps coming back
in various ways. Yes, Grant Morrison was a big fan. I think I was introduced to him through Grant Morrison's work because he was a big part of it, or he was not a huge part, but he was always kind of coming up in his most ridiculous form. And then Jeff did a reboot with Gary Frank, and Tawny was. I think Tawny in that one though was a real tiger, and then he would transform into like a giant tiger kind of monster, kind of like from He-Man or something like that. It was different, but also
come on,
cool.
Cringer, let's go celebrate.
Yeah.
I don't wanna. Yeah. You're going to be Battle Cat now. I don't want this.
Yeah, exactly. It was Battle Cat, exactly, something like that. And yeah, so he's been around. He's a great, like there's an absurd deep bench of Captain Marvel, Shazam characters. Like he had an uncle who had powers. He had all kinds of I think he had cousins who had powers. Like
sister,
there was a
foster
bunny.
sisters, a bunny.
There was a bunny who had powers. Yeah.
Oh, DC. Actually, no, he didn't start off in DC, did he?
No, that was he was Fawcett. That was
Fawcett,
Fawcett
which is
stuff.
what they named the city he lives in.
Yes.
Once DC acquired him. And because DC do that, they purchase a lot of individual comics like Wildstorm and Milestone and places like that.
Yeah.
And they just incorporate it. And now it means that there's Captain Marvel and Captain Marvel over at Marvel, because after he went away for a while and started being called Shazam, they did
it immediately.
They got their Captain Marvel, which they were perfectly entitled to do, and they were called Marvel, so and now it's just there's gonna be a lot of confused parents. Okay, Mum, for Christmas, I want Captain Marvel on Blu-ray. Do not screw this up for me.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're about to come out at about the same time too, aren't they?
Oh God!
Shazam and the Captain Marvel movie are going to come out around the same time, I believe. They're both in production, so
they could very well come out at similar times, maybe a couple of months apart.
That will be hilarious if it happens. I hope it happens. I hope that happens.
Zachary Levi versus Brie Larson. Who will come out on top?
Yeah, I think it'd probably Brie Larson, but yeah.
Yeah, probably. My money's on her as well. Funnily enough.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
I love that stuff.
Yeah. Now, it does say on your website, I know you said you hadn't updated it for a while, you work in video games. I'm a bit of a gamer. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't do a lot of it. I've just consulted with a couple of local companies and individuals for some of their mobile apps and mobile games. So that was
so
fun.
close then. I was so close to saying that doesn't count, but it does. It does count. As much as I hate it, it does count.
See, I'm not really much of a gamer, so I had to lie, to be honest with you, about my experiences, because I had really not been very familiar. But it was a lot of fun to do. It's a different kind of storytelling, but really fun.
Were you one of the people that helped bring Pokemon Go to the world?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. That's my middle name is Pokemon. They named that game after me.
I should have known from the start.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Guys, because I mean, with mobile apps, I have played Pokemon Go in the past. Not so much recently. That just because, it eats up my battery life like Billy-O. Oh God.
I was working with a guy who was making a Hannibal. The TV show Hannibal.
Oh yeah.
Like a Hannibal mobile video game app. It was pretty dope,
101
actually.
recipes for human flesh.
Yeah, it was really it was really as twisted as you could imagine. It was fun.
Absolutely, because I mean, consoles and gaming PCs right now, they're accessible but they're expensive, and a lot of people get smartphones like running water now. Basically, they're pretty easy to get, and so having games on those. I think it is really good, and introduces a whole new culture of gaming, a whole new audience for gaming. So it is it is interesting to see, although it's kind of annoying when I see, oh, a new Marvel game. Oh, iOS. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, bummer.
Yeah, well, I mean, not bummer, but it's just like, oh, that's not really my sort of thing, so it's not specifically for me, therefore I hate it.
Sure. That's the way it is now. There's too many options. You can pick the thing that you like the best, that's really just tailored for you.
Because it is a bit of concern for mine, because I fully understand people making games for mobile apps and different those sort of platforms. I am concerned, though, that a lot of big companies, a lot of franchises are just doing that. The only Marvel game I think that's come out recently is Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, which, again, I think that's a lot on Capcom, mainly. And also, upcoming is the new Spider-Man video game, which I'm so excited for, because they fixed the web swinging at long friggin' last.
Yeah, they're very excited. I've talked to some of the guys who've worked on that on the editorial side, and they're super passionate about that game.
Insomniac games seem like the right choice for this.
Yeah, it seems very, very immersive.
Absolutely. Please don't disappoint me. I've been hurt too many times before.
Have there been a lot of bad ones?
Well, not necessarily bad ones. Just like the most recent are the 2 movie tie-in Amazing Spider-Man games. Wait, now let's just chart, because I played a lot of Spider-Man games. I have a ton of Spider-Man games. I love Spider-Man. I love video games. And let's talk about not the first Spider-Man video game, but one of the first 3D sort of console Spider-Man games, Spider-Man 2000. You jump up in the air, you press a button, Spider-Man web swings sort of automatically for a little bit, and then he just drops down. And that was basically it.
A bit of a limp noodle there.
It was fine for 2000. Then comes
the
first Spider-Man movie tie-in game, which is basically the same thing. You press a button, Spider-Man just web swings automatically. You can control him, see where he goes. You can hold down the button to make him go faster. But it was all just him, like, in mid-air, just web swinging, and the webs would go directly up and hit nothing. But that was just him. That was how he got around. Then came Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 was a game changer because the webs had anchor point. If you were out in the middle of nowhere with nothing around you, you couldn't web swing and you fell to the ground. And so if you were
cool.
If you were next to a building, you fire a web, the web goes to the building, it anchors onto the building. You don't have to keep web swinging. You can just hold onto that web and keep swinging around next to the building, lying next to the building as the web swing. You can have 2 web lines at the same time and catapult yourself forward. You used momentum and jumping and speed and the direction that you used the web swinging to traverse the city. It made you feel for the first time like Spider-Man. And then came Spider-Man 3, which was basically the same thing. It wasn't not too much to write home about because, it was the same thing again. So, fine. Then came Ultimate Spider-Man, which is a video game based on the comic Ultimate Spider-Man. Which felt a bit different. For me, it was kind of like I was fighting it a little bit. But it was basically the same principle. And it worked well. In fact, it had an additional option that you could climb up the web rope, if you will, if you wanted to. And that was really cool. And then came Spider-Man Web of Shadows, which again had the same basic mechanic, had a lot of interesting new combat mechanics. You can fight in the air, you can fight on the ground, you can fight on the side of a building, like sticking to the wall, as well as web swinging and everything, and you could switch between normal red suit Spider-Man and black suit Spider-Man, and it was really cool, but the focus wasn't really on the web swinging as much as the combat now. But it still worked. Then came Amazing Spider-Man tie-in. This is when things start to become shit. From the sound of your voice, the tone of your voice, I can tell that things took a turn. They basically had the same mechanic that they had in the first Spider-Man movie tie-in game. This is like 10 years difference. 10 years, yeah. And they went back to it. Fucking no. I forget who made this game. Was it Beanox? No, I don't think it was Beanox. They made several other games like Spider-Man Edge of Time, Spider-Man Shadow Dimensions, and stuff like that. I've heard of those. And those also didn't have the anchor web swinging thing. Those also didn't have those things, but they had other things to make up for it. They had multiple different characters, and it was kind of cool. Just Amazing Spider-Man was just sort of like this sort of like limp bit of nothing. And then came Amazing Spider-Man 2, which was slightly better, However, they also introduced this like web rush mode, which basically meant Spider-Man would hop from like lampposts to billboards to side of buildings and stuff, and it took like one button to get you halfway across the city, whereas web swinging was you swing, jump, no momentum, jump, boring, shit, slow, not worth your time, and the graphics were pretty shit, and it was just kind of... I mean, it was basically like the Amazing Spider-Man movies, pretty to look at, one or two interesting features, nothing to write home about, and not worth your money. And so that's why, just looking at some of the gameplay videos for Spider-Man PS4, as it's come to know, because it's the first Spider-Man game for the PS4, why this is such a huge improvement. And it shows how low the bar is, that we're just excited for the basic, best version of web-swinging mechanics to come back. But it looks good, it looks stylish, it looks like it's fun to play. We'll know for certain once we actually start playing it. But also, there's all sort of interesting combat mechanics. Spider-Man uses, like, the terrain around him with his webs. Like, he picks up something with his web and then bashes it into a bad guy. And it's also got an interesting storyline. It's got bits where you're supposed to play as Peter Parker. It's got Miles friggin' Morales in it!
Oh, whoa. That's huge.
Yeah, I don't know if he's a playable character, but he's definitely a side character. He's there.
Okay.
He's there.
Yeah, he's got a movie coming out too that looks pretty dope.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for that, and it's Sony, so I'm gonna reserve judgment because again, been hurt too many times.
I see.
I hope.
Are they bad with animation? I don't really know.
That'd be interesting though. I think Spider-Man obviously works so well as animation because we've got so many cartoons out from it. I'm not going to go another rant about the state of the cartoons right now because I've done it before on the show, and we've already ranted about Spider-Man for too long here. But it would be something that we've never seen it with a big budget. You've got the '90s cartoon, which was good for the time, but still kind of cheap.
Yeah. I love that at the age. Yeah.
I loved it too, and now it's all just Flash and stuff. And so the middle ground was Spectacular Spider-Man, which had good animation, but it was very simplistic. And Spider-Man from MTV, which uses CGI animation, which I think looks good and was very interesting, but some people do a bit of issue with it. It's a bit of a learning curve for television CGI. But I think it worked out well. Some people said that Peter Parker's eyebrows and that were too weird. I was like, fuck you, I like his eyebrows. Just because they're a little bit bushier than usual. They're trying something new, and let's be honest, he's voiced by Neil Patrick Harris. That's enough of a distraction. That's good enough for me.
Yeah, that is odd. It's always odd to hear famous people do the voices. They're too recognizable as their actual faces to me.
Well, this was early 2000s, so it was coming out with...
he was just Doogie Howser, yeah.
Yeah, well, he was a bit... I think Doogie Howser had finished by then. I think he was a bit older than that.
Right.
But it was before How I Met Your Mother, though.
Right. He was not... He was in a lull, as I recall, during that period of time.
Yeah, so...
I think he did some DC cartoons as well, didn't he? Didn't he do the Flash or something?
I don't know if it was the Flash. I think he was... Was he the Music Meister? He was something. He was something in... And I don't know. I know he definitely did the Riddler for Halloween one time. He dressed up as the Riddler, I think.
Oh, I see.
But I think he's done other stuff as well. And he's also done Spider-Man since then. In Shattered Dimensions, I think it was, that video game. There were several different versions of Spider-Man. Regular Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man, Spider-Man Noir, and Spider-Man 2099. And he was regular Spider-Man. So I think that was good in that. I played that video game like once. I'm just like, that was fun. We'll never play it again.
That was enough, yeah.
We'll never play it again. But, what the hell were we talking about before we started talking about Spider-Man? Video games. Yes. Absolutely. So, I mean, is that something you'd like to continue consulting on video games?
Yeah, it's a different medium, and it's always fun to just try new things, and it's a different set of storytelling techniques, right? You take every possible path from every possible branch point. So in comics and any other story writing, you're always making a lot of choices. And in this, you're really just generating options, which is its own kind of fun. I mean, it's the first part of the writing experience is. Would it be cooler this way or this way? Would it be better this way? What am I trying to say here? And in writing, you whittle those down and you make those choices. In writing video games, you take the best ones, all of the best ones, and you codify them, you turn them into something else, which is super cool.
And there's so many different ways of telling stories for video games because there's so many different types of video games, not just from genre, but from like mobile games, console games, PC games, but even beyond that. And
I mean, there's as I understand it, there's some that, like The Last of Us is a big one, right? Like where it's really the story is key and central, and it really shows you what you can do with the medium, and that it is its own medium.
But on the other side of that, you've got something like Shadow of the Colossus, which is so minimalistic, and you know so little about what's going on, and yet it conveys such a powerful story and such a powerful message.
Oh, that's great. That's great, yeah.
And so it really...
almost more of it's like the equivalent of like a European comic, which the art is really telling you everything you need to know, which is cool.
Yeah. We are made by our mistakes. I'm French, I'm smoking a cigarette. That was my perfect French accent, by the way.
That was perfect. It was perfect.
Okay, so just a couple of things I want to finish up with you here.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so one, could you just briefly tell what is it about sci-fi that you actually like that draws you to it so much?
I love science fiction because I think that it's a way of positing alternate ways of looking at the world. It's a way of, I grew up, my father's Turkish, my mother's from the Philippines. I was raised in the States. I traveled and spent a lot of time living abroad, and so I'm really fascinated that people can see the world in very different ways and can see, can perceive things in very different ways. And science fiction is a way of externalizing that and making it into something fantastic, but of talking about the similarities and the differences between all of us. And I think that if done right, it can really be a way of creating empathy in terms of understanding how people who aren't like you might see the world very differently and how they deserve your respect and consideration. And so I guess science fiction is an opportunity to help other people see the world differently in the way that science fiction helped me see the world differently and accept other people's views of the world.
The Star Trek philosophy, I love it.
Exactly. Yeah, Star Trek's a great example.
And last question for you. I've started talking about this question because I really like it. I think it's interesting. What's the one story you want to tell but you haven't told yet?
Oh, there's so many. There's one story that I want to do that's kind of a weird science fiction fantasy story that talks about. I grew up first generation, so both my parents are foreign, but I was raised in the States. And but for a year, I went and lived in Istanbul, where my father's from. And so I kind of feel that that's a story that isn't often told in fiction as much. The feeling of going back to a home that was never actually your home, and the strangeness of that experience. And I think there's a way to distill that into a story that would speak to a lot of people like me, first generation people who feel kind of unmoored from any kind of history or any kind of past, and kind of the shock that comes with confronting it and being expected to be a part of it without having any experience with it. So
that's amazing. I grew up in a lot of different places when I was growing up, so that speaks to me a lot as well.
That's awesome. That's great to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think on that powerful note, we're going to end it there. Thank you very much, Deniz, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Had a great time.
Good. I'm so glad. I definitely did as well. And if you enjoy the show, Capers, please tell your friends, shout it from the rooftops, and if you haven't already, go back and listen to some of our other super episodes. Like, for example, our interview we did recently with Orlando Sanchez, talk about his stuff, and it's all really good. And you can listen to the show on iTunes, Podbean, YouTube, or at PodCapers.com. We have a Patreon. Check out the rewards, patreon.com/AP2HYC. If you want to get in touch with us, suggest show topics, or maybe you want to come on the show yourself, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AP2HYC. And of course, you can email us at podcapers@ap2hyc.com. Thank you very much to Dan Harris for our logo, the lovely microphone, the red and blue 3D glasses, those are mine. And thank you for listening. This has been PodCapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. Cue the music!